So there you have it. Aaron Rodgers back in Green Bay. Not all that surprising. Russell Wilson traded into the AFC. And now another team that the Steelers are going to have to worry about now that it's no longer Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater or any of these other quarterbacks that the Broncos have been stuck with post Peyton Manning's retirement. They now enter the fold as a team to be reckoned with. And Chris, the common question I am getting from Steelers fans over the last couple hours has been, all right, so now what? Where do we go from here? What do we now do now that the two biggest names have been crossed off the list? All the insiders who said once the Aaron Rodgers decision gets made, it's going to open up the floodgates. Boy, they weren't kidding. Because one of the biggest deals in NFL history got made like an hour after that happened to the team that had been rumored or linked to Aaron Rodgers more than anybody else. I think there's some, I even feel like for Denver, is it a consolation prize or was it actually a blessing in disguise that Aaron Rodgers decided to stay in Green Bay? They got the younger
guy. I don't think
franchise quarterback.
I don't think they got the better guy, but they got the younger guy. So if part of the goal for a team that does this is, hey, we know if so-and-so is on our roster, we know there's a real honest-to-God chance of this,
Yep.
They have that door propped open for longer.
And depending on who you talk to, the Steelers were at least interested in both of these guys. We know what Mike Florio said to us yesterday. Peter King's come out today and said he always felt like if Russell Wilson was going to get traded, it was Denver or Pittsburgh. So you don't get anything for being the runner-up. You don't get anything tangible for finishing in second place in a sweepstakes like this.
So now what?
So exactly.
Famous Jameis.
Yeah, I hope.
Here's how I feel about it a little bit, and I have said I want them to tank, but there is a vibe that I could understand if Steelers fans are feeling the following. Think about this in high school. Maybe you were a lot more popular than young, big-headed, awkward Mulsey.
Which wouldn't take much.
Right. It's a Sadie Hawkins dance, or it's a dance where your high school is one where everyone's asking everyone. Girls are asking guys, guys are asking girls. It's not like putting on airs, and you don't have a date to the dance. Homecoming dance, whatever, and all your friends do, but you don't have a date. So now you're trying to make other plans. Do you go with somebody you don't really like just to be there, even though you know it's not going to be as fun for you as it is for everybody else? You just sit at home, sit on your hands, watch TV, and pretend it doesn't eat you up inside? I think the Steelers have that feeling, because one of the things I have hated about this whole narrative from the Steelers sort of legacy media, I guess I'll say the old guard, who have enjoyed dunking on the fact that Rodgers isn't coming here and didn't really say anything about Wilson, was this idea that people were saying it was definitely going to happen. One of them was going to be a Steeler. No, people were speculating. Now there's been a narrative, they were never in on Rodgers. BS. Yes, they were. I believe Mike Florio's reporting. I absolutely believe they were a team. Peter King. Believe Peter King. When he talks about the Steelers and the Broncos being Russell Wilson kind of, in his mind, finalists. But those people talk to people that make decisions.
Right, but the thing about where they go from here that is tricky is if the Steelers really looked at this offseason and thought, let's try to get the best quarterback in here. So that means we'll just figure out what the Aaron Rodgers trade package would be. We'll figure out what the Russell Wilson trade package would be. Okay, we're not getting either one of those guys. Do they want to pay a premium
for the next tier guy?
For the next tier guy?
No, you don't overpay. The one thing you don't do here is you don't overpay. And that means committing 3 years, $60 million, $35 guaranteed to Mitch Trubisky, who I will repeat again sucks.
Okay, so the other trade guys too would be Garoppolo and Derek Carr if for some reason the Raiders make him available.
Do you want to somehow get Garoppolo for a fourth?
Yeah, but then you still have to pay him, Chris. That's the other side of that.
So no, my answer is no.
He's going to count $28 million against your cap,
and my answer is no.
He might demand that when you trade for him, hey, I want an extension on it. Yeah.
No, the answer is no.
Okay.
The answer is also no for Derek Carr.
So then why is it no for Derek Carr? Because you just don't think he's available?
I think you're still probably going to have the third best quarterback in the AFC North. I know Jackson is like a polarizing figure here.
I think Derek Carr's Stafford light.
And what was Stafford light until he was surrounded by a star-laden roster?
I just think of all the guys that are available out there, you can make the best case that Carr has been held back or put in a bad spot by the team and organization he's been with. The Raiders have been a mess. They haven't won a playoff game in 20 years. They had to fire Gruden. He's
a great leader, but is he? Can you win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr?
I think you might be able to, yeah.
I think it's embarrassing. I don't think he's Matt Stafford, though. I don't even think he's Stafford light.
I just said Stafford
light. But I don't
light.
think he's even Stafford light, man.
He's a good quarterback that's been on a moribund franchise.
And Stafford, I think you could argue, is a very good, to, at times great quarterback who was on one of the 3 worst franchises in the NFL.
Right.
The Raiders are not one of the 3 worst, though. I can't put them there.
They're in the top 10.
Okay, but there's a big gap between the Lions and the Raiders, man.
I know.
And I think there's a gap between Stafford and Carr. And I think you're rearranging deck chairs on the SS Steelers here if you bring in Derek Carr. What was it? The HMS, Her Majesty's HMS Steelers, yes. So I wouldn't do it. I'm becoming more and more an absolutist. Now that we have clarity on the 2 huge dominoes that have fallen, I'm becoming more and more of a tank absolutist.
Okay, so
you either give me Jameis Winston for entertainment's sake, or you just put Mason Rudolph out there and say screw it.
So part of the fallout from the Aaron Rodgers decision today is that when one door closes, another one opens, and that's where the Jordan Love reports or rumors come in. Now what happens to this guy?
What's the difference between Jordan Love and Mason Rudolph other than the round in which they were picked? And the fact that Love had to surmount a much better quarterback and Mason couldn't outplay Ben.
I would say I've seen Mason Rudolph play in 10 NFL games, and outside of one game against Cleveland in Week 17.
Really 1 quarter against Cleveland.
I've never looked at him and thought, there's a guy that I believe can be an NFL starting quarterback. And so I've got 10 games of evidence that he can't do it. With Love, it's 1. So it's the smallest sample size there is. It's 1 NFL game against Kansas City.
The Packers give you a data point with how they've handled Rodgers, and I know he's 2-time defending MVP and all that.
Yeah.
But the Packers, when they realized Rodgers was the real deal, like they were pretty confident in what they had, they told Brett Favre to take a hike. They didn't do that with Jordan Love.
I agree with you on that.
So there's your data point that I think matters. It's the same. It's very equivalent to, in our town, Mason Rudolph in practice, you never heard a word. When Ben Roethlisberger was cratering and disintegrating before our very eyes, you never heard a word about how Mason was cooking in practice.
Okay, the other thing about this huge deal today with Seattle and Denver is now the Seahawks are in the market for a quarterback. They pick 9th. They're ahead of the Steelers. And there's a report from the Combine that they really like Willis.
So now Willis may be gone at 9.
They have a situation where Locke and or Geno Smith just hold down the fort
till Willis is
ready. Yeah, that's why they got Locke back in that trade.
Locke has occasional bouts of competence, nothing more.
Yep.
So then Pickett, it seems like it's cooling on Carolina being obsessed with him at 6, but guess what?
You still have Washington at 11. You still have New Orleans at 18. I mean, there's still...
So now you might have 2 or even 3. If somebody says Matt Corral, we'll bring you in. Like New Orleans might say, hey, we have a short quarterback here who is great. Now you might have 3 quarterbacks off the board by 20. And then what?
I just think this is a bad day if you wanted a first-round pick quarterback or if you wanted a franchise quarterback. You're not going to get one. It's a good day for those who want the Steelers to do what it takes to bring in a guy who's like an expensive wild card. Trubisky.
Is James even expensive?
Everyone's so desperate for a quarterback. You'd think he wouldn't be cheap.
If say his knee, it's fine. Who would you pay more money to and be willing to commit more years to, him or Trubisky?
Oh, come on. You know my answer on that, Malsey.
Which is what's inexplicable about Trubisky is that people seem more ready to commit multiple years and pretty big money to Mitch Trubisky.
Well, that's Trubisky-itis. That's this weird condition that has taken hold of Steelers media and NFL media where they have forgotten that the man can't read a defense and sucked in his last year. And when Chicago just kicked him to the curb, no one said, this is a mistake. They're giving up on the guy too soon. But now they are saying things like that after he registered 0 snaps last year. It's one of the best, brand, whoever his PR person is, it's one of the great comeback stories in NFL history.
Trubisky-itis.
Yes.
Now I'm just thinking about
Donnie, you don't have
He's got
Trubisky-itis, do you?
Trubisky-itis.
No, I'm all aboard the Jameis train. I'm with you guys.
I either at this point give me Jameis and just.
But don't you feel like it just
$8-9
seems
million?
even the first round quarterback thing seems like a stretch now?
You know what I would do? Here. You want a plan that I like? Maybe your mileage may vary. Donnie, I'll pose this one to you. They're at pick 20. Let's say you can find somebody in the very late portion of the first round between picks 28 and 32. Maybe 28 and where they're willing to trade up to 20 for some reason. There's a guy they love, and they're willing to jump 7 or 8 spots to do it. If you told me that the Steelers could execute a trade down in the first round to pick 27, 28, and take Desmond Ridder, I would do it. Because you're getting something extra in return for that kind of a move, right? 8 spots, not to move up to 10th like the Steelers did for Bush, but you're probably getting what? Their first, obviously, the swap of picks, and then what, a second? Maybe 2/3 or something like that. You're getting extra draft picks. I would take a flyer on him at 28. I would. If you really don't want to go more than this year without knowing who your next guy is, I would do that.
But I think then that would blow up one of your goals, which is that 2022 is pain for gain. I just don't see them pulling an Arizona Cardinals and drafting quarterbacks in back-to-back years. You're holding out for a 2023 quarterback in the draft.
I am. I'm trying to play devil's advocate based on the situation you're talking about, that the first-round quarterback thing is now dead in the water. I'm saying if the board fell like you just described with Willis and Pickett and maybe even Corral gone, if you want to trade back and see if you can snag Ridder, that might be your best bet.
Mason Rudolph's got to be loving today. He put out a Instagram video of him throwing 15-yard passes that I think was supposed to be a hype video. That was just the most. It wasn't like John Elway throwing the vortex football out of the stadium or Dan Marino doing a behind-the-back pass
compared
in Buffalo.
Compared to Ben last year, though, it might as well have been
it was just
those
like
things.
a normal pass.
Doubling Ben's air yards with a 15-yarder.
Just a pretty standard little pass.
He's throwing 8-yard hitch routes.
There you go.
To a bumping soundtrack. He's going to be their starter in week 1. You know what? I should have done the 12-day cleanse bet yesterday. We would have had clarity on it 24 hours later. What the hell was I doing, Donnie?